This actual play is intended for mature audiences and contains themes some viewers may find upsetting. Please check each episode's show notes for specific content warnings and enjoy the show with care.
Okay, we are back with The Between. Let's do a little bit of recapping from last time. So you have 3 active threats right now, the Nutcracker, Figs Pigs, and the Spider Silk Seamstress. You're really close to being ready to answer one of these questions on the Nutcracker. You could absolutely take a crack, if you will, on the first or second question because you have 8 clues. The third question would be a flat roll if you stopped right there, but not horrible, right? Also, you have the Mask of Perfection still available on the Nutcracker. So whenever you do get ready to answer those questions, that is your fallback. So even if the die roll goes poorly, you will still be correct if you have the Mask of Perfection in play. And so that is something to be mindful of. Figs, Pigs, and the Spider Silk Seamstress are still fairly early in terms of clue gathering, though we have surprisingly seen a lot of those threats. Just sadly, our hunters have not been collecting capital C clues as much on those threats. The Mastermind, we have kind of talked off mic about how we think today is the day we're going to take a stab at the Mastermind question. You do have a complexity 8 there, and you have 8 clues. You could pick up another one once you get ready to answer the Nutcracker. So maybe the sculptor is involved in Mrs. Brathwaite's plans. So that is something to be mindful of. I also want to remind you of your various Hargrave House advancements. One didn't actually make it on here, but I'll remind you that you have a special one-time use mask that was given to Hargrave House via the resolution of the Reaver's Last Victim. I don't have that text in front of me, but it is there, and it can be used for any at any time. You also have, well, we've seen the map room. It played a very pivotal role, I think, in what will be the eventual solution to the Mastermind question. We have Jenny Johnston, who we almost got to see again last time, but sadly we didn't have Matt for a bit. And then, of course, we saw Maricat. So that's just sort of where things stand there. And the hunters, everyone has at least one condition. Most of you have 2. And I think it's also a nice time to check in on a couple of the narrative tracks that are on a couple of these playbooks, in particular, The Child and The Reflection. Right now, Dr. Mortimer, you are 2 body parts away from The Child. I know you're picking up another one at the top of the session. Is that an addition? Is that already accounted for, or what's the story there?
That's accounted for. So that was, from
so you have
the
2 more to grab.
Resurrectionists.
Okay, got it.
Yes.
Okay, so you're really close. You can try to animate the child whenever you want, but if you get all the body parts, you have control over the outcome. If you don't have all the body parts, you are subject to a die roll. So,
and if there's one thing she loves, it's control.
Exactly. Ms. Quinn, you're about halfway through the reflection scarring, and that's about the right pace if we were going to be playing a second campaign, because you would want the character to be able to go a little bit longer in that regard. But we're going to see some more of this opera, and I'm excited about that. And I suspect we'll see a little bit more of it before we are done. And that is sort of where that stuff stands. I think that's all I've got for recapping right now. We're not going to be introducing any new threats, so we will just kick off our day phase with investigation and maybe answering questions. But we do have a few things to resolve before that. First things first, Ms. Jean-Baptiste, you and Haskell owe me a clue. You owe yourselves a clue from a vulnerable move from last time. Did you want to go ahead and tell me what that is?
I think the clue is actually a newspaper article about the death of a young man, a ballet dancer, from, I think, about a month ago. But they didn't die in the opera house. It was just a little side text on one of the pages, but it was there.
Oh, interesting. So that's great. I assume this is for the Nutcracker. And whenever you get ready to answer that question, this is a great example of how you can use the clue. You can like add some context to the clue to make your theory work. So you can maybe say something more about like how that person died, which might help the answer. Fantastic. Go ahead and note that down. And the next thing we have to take care of from last time, we have a few narrations to do. Why don't we start with that body part, Dr. Mortimer? What did you collect for the child?
So the resurrectionists brought me sex organs in the night. Which is particularly interesting considering we've got the Nutcracker on the go. But as Mortimer sews these organs to the child, she remembers vividly how loathsome she found the conversations about gender and sex and the differences, these perceived differences between the two. She herself had never felt one or the other. She'd never felt kindred to either, and Cora had been resolutely female, a woman, but Mortimer had never really seen her that way. When they made love, it was all just body parts. What was the point of arguing stupid little pretenses over what flaps of skin one has in the nethers? It was so wonderfully stupid an argument.
Thank you. Ms. Quinn, the masterwork changed to reflect your spiritual change, as it were, from having been subject to the power of the spider silk seamstress and the sister Sandula, and maybe even just the idea of being an audience for this strange group of sartorial enthusiasts. Go ahead and tell us how the reflection has changed.
The clothes we wear can be a liberation, an expression. They can be a binding. In particular, when we are not choosing the clothes we wear. And so it is with the singers in most every performance of an opera. So it is with the singers who perform The Distant Celestial. It's been around for a while, this opera. Opera is forever popular, of course. But people do begin to grow tired of seeing the same old production, the same old way, and wouldn't it be exciting to modernize it a little? Sex it up a little bit? What if the female singers showed a little bit more skin? What if instead of loose flowing dresses, they wore tight fitting corsets that bound with thread and pulled them into a lovelier posture and a lovelier shape? Now, of course, restricting their breathing, you could argue, might have an impact on the singing, but surely the visual spectacle is worth that change.
Thank you. And Ms. Jean-Baptiste, you have an aspect of the Janus mask to resolve for us.
Yes, I do. It is narrate a flashback to your young adulthood that shows your first sexual encounter with a dark entity. Picture a country house, a summer soiree. The guests are dressed in elegant finery to mask the vapid and dreary but polite conversation and shallow vanity of their hearts. And Phoebe watches from the garden, slightly removed. A young woman crosses the floor towards the man witless, perhaps in the hope of gained favor and a life that maybe he would pay for. And she tries to memorize it the moment the dainty touch of her hand on his for a sketch later, and she is interrupted by a voice that asks who they have to compete with for a moment of her attention. And she turns, and the person speaking to her is beautiful, dark ringlet curls, tanned olive skin. They smell of petrichor, which makes no sense. It's warm and dry. It has not rained. And when they ask again, and she says neither, they smile and then ask her for a conversation more private than the garden would allow, and her curiosity, still boundless, follows after them. Though her feet carry her to just beyond the edge of the tree line and not much further, the enigmatic pull of a stranger can only take you so far, and she is a woman alone, and society feels so far away here. And when she stops, they turn and approach, silent against the forest floor. And they back her against a tree and lay a kiss just to her neck. An interesting conversation. And she is not accustomed to attention of this kind, and she feels this desire within it. There is something dark and ephemeral about this person, something different to the creatures that haunt her, have haunted her for all the years of her life. And she is drawn to them. This desire is a similar desire that wakes her in the night and calls her to say strange words into the sky. And it's overwhelming, and she draws back, but not away. And they laugh softly. And they say, "You would deny me your light, I only offer you worship." And she cannot understand what they mean, and their touch is very distracting. And they say, "Bid me to stop, I am yours to command." And she cannot find it in her to refuse them, nor does she really want to. She wants this. And clothing is shed, and flesh is bared, and this angel kneels and then lays. The forest floor is mossy with the dying debris of the woods, but all she can smell is petrichor. And they beckon her from above down to them below, and there is something to be gained here, something that she just knows if she gives herself, no, not gives, she has to take it. And she follows them down, and she is not skilled at this game. They know how to draw sound from her that she has not become familiar with in her limited experience. And she finds this animal pleasure as she rakes her nails against their skin hard enough to draw blood, and that calls to her as well. It calls to her like a siren song, like a friend. And she has felt so alone in this frail, ailing body, unworthy of mercy, of peace from God, any God. And they understand. And they do not pity her. They show her instead what she can do, and she can see it, and it is luminous. And she reaches for it. And she hears her own blood in her ears, waves crashing against her own wretched divinity. And she is so blessed here in the garden, the circle of trees, an altar to her awakening. Her being renewed and anointed. And she sees so much. And she does not see the edges of her soul being darkened, because how could she see, how could she know the price of pleasures like this?
Fantastic, thank you. The day phase. Well, I think we will do a round of scenes for our phase and then kind of transition into answering the Nutcracker question. Let's go around the table. I had heard off mic, Haskell, that you would like to have a scene with the doctor.
Yeah, after we're done at Hargrave House, wherever we're going to go, I'd like to set up a vulnerable scene in the hansom cab. I think, are you intending to go back to the ballet today, Doctor?
I believe so, yes.
Good. That's an easy first scene to have, I think, unless the others have scenes that will interject there. What are your thoughts for, well, Dr. Mortimer, so it sounds like you're going to the ballet. That's sorted. Ms. Quinn, what's your plan for today?
I have a conversation I need to have over breakfast before the doctor and Haskell leave the house, if that's quite
we love a breakfast conversation. If everyone's okay with that, we will definitely have that. I do want to check with Ms. Jean-Baptiste. Ms. Jean-Baptiste, what do you intend to do initially, at least?
Well, after breakfast, depending on what the mood is.
I know, so I was wondering, what do you hope to do?
I may consult my stones, just a quick bit of divination, and then I'll see where that takes me afterwards.
Fantastic. This is your scene. Ms. Quinn, set it up for us.
So I think we see Cecelie reading over some papers or other. She's being casual, flipping through. Perhaps it's something related to one of the ongoing threats. Perhaps it's just some entertaining papers. Who knows? And is everyone else at breakfast? She's waiting for the others to join.
Yes, I think so.
Yes.
Wonderful.
I think, well, has Haskell made Eggs Benedict?
That's a very good question.
with an immaculately emulsified hollandaise, you will find. I think I've got breakfast set for everyone.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, practice does make perfect.
I think Phoebe has taken enough hollandaise from this that it kind of more makes a soup with Eggs Benedict than just Eggs Benedict.
Cecelie is. I don't know if if any of you have ever seen her eat in front of you. She's just kind of pushing the hollandaise around with her fork while she reads, and then she kind of glances And I think Haskell, as you're kind of retreating from having set the table, she'll say, "You made this, did you?
I did, miss.
You're the chef here."
Chef might be a little strong, miss, but I know my way around the kitchen.
Excellent. I'll need you tonight.
Tonight?
Yes, I'm inviting a young lady to join me for dinner, and I would like you to cook.
Mortimer's eyes flick up over the paper that she is reading at Cecelie, pointedly.
Cecelie is looking at the papers she's reading.
And Haskell says, completely oblivious to the tension, possibly, that would be up to Dr. Mortimer to see if my services could be spared this evening. I'm aware we have pressing matters on the streets of London tonight.
Of course, of course. You don't mind, do you, Eveline?
Not at all. It would seem that Haskell has any number of employers these days, so who am I to say that he is mine alone to give orders to?
I believe he is the one who said that. Well, it sounds like your evening has been freed up, Mr. Haskell. How are you at calligraphy, by the way?
Not my strongest suit, Mum, but I have savoir-faire.
Excellent. She pulls up a piece of paper she's been scribbling on and hands it to you. Her handwriting is absolutely appalling, but it is legible. And she says, "Write this out nicely on a note card and have it sent to Savile Row, would you?"
I'll deliver it personally, miss.
You can make out enough that it is an invitation for a certain seamstress to come and have dinner at Hargrave House.
Mortimer's fingers are white knuckle around the edge of the paper.
I think Phoebe looks up from her hollandaise soup and then is looking at the note pass from Cecelie to Haskell, and then her eyes follow back towards Cecelie. When did you get that?
I always wear the jewels to breakfast.
No.
I like to dress well.
No. And she stands up, and it looks like she's going to touch you, but her hand hovers just beyond. No, there's something, and it looks like she's tracing a line of something around you halfway and then stops. Someone's put something on you.
Oh, Phoebe, could we not have these grand delusions at breakfast?
Somebody has
my delusion of terribly grand.
Somebody has put something on me, did you say?
Yes, a binding.
Who? Whom?
Well, I might have to have a think about it. Where did you go?
I'd like to interject briefly, if I can.
Mm-hmm.
I think I would like to suggest that Ms. Quinn, this counts as expanding your horizons. This sort of like planning this party and getting Haskell involved. In which case, you are all currently under the umbrella of the vulnerable move at breakfast.
Oh.
So this might be your opportunity to clear conditions if you wish. If you don't wish, you only get to do this once per phase, though. So if you don't wish to be under its auspices, you need to get up and leave the table at some point. But I do like where you're going with this, Ms. Jean-Baptiste, about like helping Ms. Quinn clear the bound condition. Also, I'll point out, Ms. Quinn, you are free to talk about your past right now, and the others can ask you about it as they wish, if we want to keep this scene going a bit.
I wasn't necessarily trying to clear it. If Cecelie wants to keep it, that's also an option.
I have another condition I wouldn't mind getting rid of. We can keep playing in the space. I think Cecilie's actually going to stand quite suddenly and say, "Can you use your particular skills to find out who's done this?
Oh, perhaps. I just sort of noted. Who did you write that letter to?
Oh, to Miss Hazel Beaumont.
Oh. The binding that surrounds you, it's rather spiraling. A thread of it extended from your hand to that note. It broke when Haskell touched it, but
Fascinating.
How to break it? I don't. This is stronger than I've really seen before.
Wow.
I may
Well,
have something that could be of use.
Really?
You do?
I thought you were more of the flesh and bone.
I am, but when mass hysteria takes over Hargrave House, I have no option but to partake, it would seem. She'll reach into the sort of cloak that is at some point always at hand or nearby, and pull out a small gold ring and place it in the middle of the table. Rabbi Solomon's ring. Supposedly repelled demons.
Ooh.
Miss Quinn,
yes,
you knew Rabbi Solomon well because Rabbi Solomon used to live in the house. What are your thoughts on the deceased rabbi?
I rather respected Rabbi Solomon. She knew what she believed. She didn't shy away from new evidence which challenged her beliefs, for she had an open and curious mind.
Yes,
And
an open,
you
curious
stole
mind that got
jewelry
her
from
killed!
her dead body?
You would rather I have left it? Property of Hargrave House belongs at Hargrave House. Otherwise, it would be sat in some godforsaken evidence locker.
Phoebe is just gently sliding the ring towards her into her hand.
Haskell is making the tensest shopping list right now you could ever imagine.
You don't get to sit there and tell me about Rabbi Solomon's expansion of beliefs. You were not her friend.
What would you know about friends? You have an employee, a property of Hargrave House, and you have colleagues who you neither understand nor respect. And you have issues, young lady.
I was a fool to ever consider you a hunter, Quinn. Vain, vapid, vile. You are as old and as much a relic as anything else in this house. Hell, you may as well have been Marikat's lungs. Show me anything you have done that has had any consequence here. We have been doing work. You have been having baths.
My, did your odorous friends dig up a spine for your collection?
Were you able to look away from the mirror for 1 minute to notice?
You are a mirror.
You wish. She gets up from the table.
Well, that was entertaining. Is she always like that, Haskell?
Haskell's gone. He was gone minutes ago. He snuck out unseen, Maricat style.
Fantastic. Cecelie didn't notice because she never looks at you.
Well, do we think conditions got cleared here? Was this the vulnerable move? I do think vulnerability was happening. I don't think it was
I think
intimate sort of
Mortimer.
vulnerability.
No, I think Mortimer was very much faced with her hypocrisy, like straight up. It's the first time someone's shown her literally a mirror, and she's had to look back and go, "Yep."
I mean, clear it. I think you can clear it if you were facing it enough to where it doesn't affect you anymore.
Mm-hmm.
I would like to clear exposed now that I'm armed with the knowledge of who has bound me.
I think that's great. Yep.
And that now that I feel armored up by being a dick to everyone else as
Haskell, it sounded like you were slipping out before this was a thing that was going to happen. That's fantastic. You also all get to define a clue somehow in the middle of all this. You did stumble upon a clue for one of the threats, so be thinking about that as well. Haskell, I know you had said you wanted to have a vulnerable move with Dr. Mortimer. Unfortunately, Dr. Mortimer cannot be in that because of the 1 per phase requirement. That said, I do think there's a great scene there probably to have in the handsome cab, even if we don't get the mechanical benefits of it. So, anything else before we leave this tumultuous breakfast scene? Fantastic. Why don't we then transition to that scene with Dr. Mortimer and Haskell in the hansom cab? I think you are riding past Regent's Park Lake. Dazzling under the midday sun, long arching bridges span wide waters. Willow limbs laced with frost gleam as young lovers take their first tentative steps together under the boughs. There's a small winter market that you're passing where warm sweets are available for purchase. Let's paint the scene, everyone. Despite this picturesque image, Regent's Park Lake saw a tragedy last year when the ice gave way and several hundred people plunged into the freezing depths. What evidence of the rescue efforts still lingers?
I think there's a fairly hefty tree that is right on the waterline, and at some point during the rescue effort, there was an attempt to rig a kind of a winch and pulley to try and pull people out, and the bough broke, and what we can now see is the snapped branch where it once was, and the rope burns that were generated into the bark, like cut deep, because there were so many people pulling on the rope that gave way.
Over one of the bridges, there is a spot where the water is incredibly clear. And at the bottom of the lake, just too far down for anyone to feasibly dive in and get it. But it's been there all that time. A lone shoe, white, with a little silver buckle. Child-sized.
Never used.
There's a wooden sign by the lakeside. It's a little skew-whiff, as though hastily hammered into the ground and weather-worn, even though it's only a year old. Already, the painted letters have faded a little, but you can still read "No skating."
Where this mountainous effort was made, where feet had trampled over and over again, trying to grab people, grabbing some living, grabbing most dead. There was a groove worn into the ground, and the water rushes up into that spot, just that spot, and has frozen over. It changes the shape of the lake just a bit.
Fantastic. Haskell, Dr. Mortimer, the scene is yours.
I think that we join the scene just after we pass the park, and there's a junction, and our carriage takes slightly too long pulling away, and Haskell has to bang a couple of times to get the driver to pick up the pace again. And I think we're sat opposite each other in rather frayed silence. And I think Haskell says to the doctor, "That was a rather tense breakfast, Mum."
Would you prefer not to be in my employment, Haskell?
I did pick up on your suggestion that I'd taken up other employers, but the last time I checked, you were the only name on my ledger.
Well, the last time I heard, when we were outside of the art exhibition Sally No Face had put on for us, you'd taken up other employment with a young man.
It was merely a ruse to get us through the door and confront Sally No Face, which I believe you took care of.
Seemed more than that. The way Quinn thinks that she owns you half as much as I do.
May I speak
Are there any
freely, Mum?
Please do.
I think Miss Quinn feels like she owes everyone. And if I may be so bold to ask if you're questioning my loyalty, Mum.
Unlike Quinn, I don't believe I own anything. I'm very aware of my position within this society. I know exactly what I am, Haskell. I don't fit. I never have, I never will. I don't have friends, and as Miss Quinn quite rightly said, I only have colleagues. Or employment. It is up to you who you decide to be hired by. I can only raise capital. I can only offer benefits. It is not like I can offer anything more, and I'm very aware of that.
You are a brilliant woman, Mum. The work you do, I can barely comprehend. And I appreciate there's not many people on Earth who can. But I can assure you, the lengths that I have gone to, the depths to which I've sunk to ensure your work can continue and that your work can continue discreetly, you will never know. Gastrell's is just a name on a list, a long list. And if I may offer a piece of advice to you, Mom, don't let Miss Quinn's words wind around your crooked conscience. This work we do, this dark work, requires a certain emotional distance and a heart, Mum, can be such a heavy burden.
Kind words, Haskell. I appreciate them. You make a very good Eggs Benedict. And I appreciate your continued loyalty.
Very good, Mum.
Miss Quinn, Ms. Jean-Baptiste, you have not yet left Targrave House for whatever you're planning on doing today for the rest of the day. And you will both hear the ring, 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 ring of the front bell.
I'll get it.
Thank you, dear.
Of course.
When you answer the door, standing in front of you is a young man who looks vaguely familiar to you. He has a very kind of shy grin, and he is wearing a heavy coat, but you can tell even from underneath the coat that he has a rather muscular build. He says, you may not remember me. My name is my name is Sasha Delov. I'm a dancer at the Royal Ballet.
Hello.
I was the one who was accosted and tied to the top of that tree.
Yes.
I don't know how I was saved from that situation, but I do know that I was visited by a woman who I have come to believe is an angel. And she told me that you were responsible for saving me.
Right.
And I just wanted to express my gratitude.
Your gratitude is welcomed. The angel that visited you, could you describe to me how you are fine, right? You weren't hurt or anything.
I am intact, if that's what you're wondering.
Yes.
May I come in?
Yes, right. Of course. We have a parlor. You can sit in it.
This place is incredible. Do you live here?
Yes, mostly.
Oh, it's really something.
People do say that sometimes, yes.
Well, I just wanted to come by and give you my thanks. And this angel told me that just as you saved me, that I now have an opportunity to save you.
Save me how, Sasha?
Well, I haven't really worked that out yet, but I felt compelled to come here.
Would you like tea? I also think we have, we might just have some hollandaise sauce. Do you like Eggs Benedict?
Tea will be fine, thank you. They're very strict with us about our diet, especially when we're getting ready to do a performance. I'm just surprised we're still doing the performance, but the show must go on, right?
The show must indeed. I'll get you your tea.
He actually comes with you to the back to get the tea. He's following you. And he says, There's a Christmas market near the theater. I have a little bit of time to kill before I have to go to rehearsal. Do you have the afternoon free?
Yes, I do. I was going to. I suppose yes, I can. Yes, I can come with you to the
good.
Christmas market.
Good. Right. Yes. Good. I actually don't celebrate Christmas myself, but I do find the trappings of it to be heartwarming.
It can be. It can be at times. Sasha, maybe that's a question I should ask you later. We'll hold on to that for now. How do you like your tea? With or without milk? 1, 2, 3 sugars?
That feels like a good cut. While that's going on, there's another ringing at the door. Ring, 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 ring.
Haskell, the door's ringing. Oh, for goodness sake, I do everything around here.
When you open the door, Miss Quinn, there is a man standing there who has a magnificent nest of feathery hair. He's wearing a bright silk vest you can see under his coat. He actually is not wearing gloves, and you can see that his fingers are stained with ink. And he says, "Oh, my goodness, you are her."
Yes.
I'm Orrin Blackwood, playwright, at your service. And last night, do I have it right that you were at the clothier of a one Ms. Hazel Beaumont, and that you were dressed by Ms. Beaumont?
What do you want?
I am. Well, may I come in?
No.
Right. Well, madam, I am something of an enthusiast of Ms. Beaumont's. Well, not Ms. Beaumont as such, but Ms. Beaumont's people. I am well aware, you see.
Speak up, man.
Place. I am aware of the other place. I know of the fae folk, of the fair folk, and I'm currently writing. I'm currently writing a play inspired by them and their ways, and I was wondering if perhaps you would like to, or you would be willing to speak to me about your experience.
Why should I do that?
Because I will immortalize you, in a way, in words, on the stage.
You may know something useful. You may enter.
Thank you.
I
think he sees
go
like
on.
the other coat, Sasha Delov's coat, on the coat rack, and says, "Oh, do you have another guest right now?
People come and go from here all the time.
Are they also in communion with the fae folk?"
You ask a lot of questions.
Yes, I'm sorry. I know I have a tendency to run on. I just have so many words inside me, ma'am, and they are just clawing their way out of me at all times.
As I lead him towards, I suppose, the dining room, because the parlor is occupied, I'm tipping every picture on the wall so they're slightly skew-if.
Fantastic. Well, you said you wanted a little denouement to the last scene, Haskell. What is that?
So I think that Haskell drops the doctor off at Covent Garden and continues on his merry way to Savile Row to deliver this message. But there's somewhat of a diversion as we realise that little pause outside Regent's Park, there was a change of driver of this cab. And we find ourselves in a somewhat less salubrious area of East London and an empty warehouse where this handsome cab is now being delivered to someone who greets Haskell warmly. It's the stout, very rough-looking lady who caused that diversion on St. James's Street for him. And she shakes his hand and says, "Pleasure doing business, Mr. Barlow," and starts stripping that cab for parts. And on the way out of this alleyway, where the end of which is the kind of like yard where he's dropped that off. A young barrow boy is summoned to Haskell's side, and Haskell gives him a wooden box, and a couple of shillings to deliver it. And we find that box finds its way to Scotland Yard. And when the recipient opens it, and the recipient being D.I. Fairweather, he'll find a very small pair of cashmere gloves and a note that says, "Who knew that the long arm of the law had such tiny hands?" And I would like to clear cashmere gloves.
Fantastic. Per the new vulnerable move, I am entitled to force a day move on you. I am curious what you're afraid will happen, in specifically with regard to D.I. Fairweather.
I think that I'm afraid that he might not have quite the sense of humor that I think he has.
Yeah, I think that's probably right. Okay, great. Go ahead and roll with, gosh, what is this? This has got to be presence, right? And are you marked by D.I. Fairweather still? Make that a disadvantage as well.
7.
Very good.
Scraped it.
I have to tell you how you'll be vulnerable if you go through with this, and then you can tell me if you wish to go through with it. I think D.I. Fairweather will find a pretense to have you arrested, and you will be spending your night phase in a jail cell.
Can I mask that?
You can, yeah.
I will mark a mask of the future, specifically the moss-covered gate, which says unmark the first 2 boxes on your mask of the past.
Oh, very good. Yeah. A little revisionist history, perhaps, with Haskell. Fantastic. It's a 10 plus. It works very well. That was, strictly speaking, a separate vulnerable move for you. So you do get to define a clue as well. So by all means. I believe that's how it works. Maybe I should review the new vulnerable move. I don't have it.
Who wrote this game?
I know, you would think.
If only we could ask him.
I actually want to go look now. I'll look on our next break. Okay, so Dr. Mortimer, what did you have in mind at the theater?
Now that I'm at the theater, I've had a bit of a revelation. Maybe the chat with Haskell's cleared her head. Instead of the theatre, would I be able to maybe have walked to the fountain that was depicted in the picture? Is that somewhere in central London, or is that?
Yeah, I like that very much. Yeah, that's great. Yeah.
So she sort of walks past the theatre, pulls out that drawing, and then meanders through to the fountain.
There's a soft smack as a snowball hits you right in the cheek. There's a little kid. Got you. And they're making another snowball.
Oh, the temptation to make one with a rock in it. And throw it back. No.
What did they move? What are you afraid is going to happen if you lose your nerve right now?
Oh, I'm afraid that the kids are going to see me as a weak target and just begin pelting me with snowballs, and I'm going to look like an absolute fool.
Fantastic.
Damn.
Roll with composure.
So my composure from memory was all right. 2. All right.
Oh, that's pretty good.
I really, really don't want to be messed about by children. Is there any way that I can mark the flesh terrarium? Because if this goes awry, I don't want to look weak. I want to look scary, and I'm going to pull the flesh terrarium out and try and scare them away.
You just happen to have it with you.
Oh yeah, it's in the cloak that has everything. Yeah, it's never too far away.
I do like the idea of you pulling out something grotesque to scare them with. I think that's a great idea.
Yeah.
Yeah. If it's not marked, by all means, go ahead and mark it. Roll with
Okay,
advantage.
fantastic. Ooh, that one's on the floor. Fantastic. Oh, thank God I did. 7.
7. I have to tell you how you'll be vulnerable, and you can decide whether you want to.
Great.
I think in order to prove your mettle against these kids, you're going to have to get into a snowball fight with them right now. You have to stand up to them and show them that you are every bit their equal, and you will not tolerate their nonsense.
Yeah, there's a haughtiness to it, and it's just, how very dare you! Oh, and then she begins picking up a snowball and throwing one back, and I guess a childish sense washes over her.
Do you end up having a good time?
I do think she enjoys herself.
Yeah.
Against all of her sensibilities, against all of her better judgment, she does end up enjoying herself.
Yeah, good. How does that make you feel?
Childish.
Yeah, take
Very
it as a
childish.
condition. Yeah.
Cool. Great.
You can, if you want to narrate the scene more fully, you certainly can, but I kind of like that. Ms. Jean-Baptiste. Sasha Delov is while you're making tea, he's asking you questions about where do you come from and how long have you lived in London? And he will explain that he's actually, he was born in Russia, but he moved here when he was very young. And he mentions several different important details about his life. He is Muslim for a start. And he's very frank and open and kind. But you will also notice that he is clearly, you can tell that he has been brutalized by the ballet, right? Let's paint the scene, everyone. How can we tell that Sasha Delov's body has been permanently changed because of his time as a ballet dancer?
I think he's so painfully thin that we can see his ribs through his shirt, like they're kind of xylophone keys almost, and his clavicles are really sharp, and he's just so kind of angular in a way that has been derived from the drive to succeed at any cost.
He has a bearing that's very controlled, but when he holds an object, perhaps even the teacup, you can see the tremor of a hand which is always shaking ever so slightly.
He walks with a practiced grace that only comes from forced repetition. He moves so smoothly he can't help it.
Posture is incredibly important when maintaining one's poses on point or even on flat. The way that this is rigorously introduced in Central is the ballet performers' arms are put behind a sort of wooden cross which sits against their back and under their arms. It is a training that they undergo for hours to ensure that their spine is practically straight. None of the curves of any of these wayward people that would have no idea how to dance. He sits upright, unnatural, mannequin-like. It looks painful.
Ms. Jean-Baptiste, do you go with him to the Christmas market?
I do.
Yeah. Any preparations before you go to the Christmas market?
Do I think I do still want to consult these stones before I leave the house. I don't bring them with me.
Mhm.
So I think I tell him to wait for a moment. I just have to gather my things, which I do. It's not untrue, but I probably take longer than I need to.
Fantastic. Let's read that move. It says, this is a thinning of the veil, yeah?
Yes.
When you consult your tools to glimpse the future, go ahead and roll with sensitivity.
I think Phoebe, she grabs her bag and she sets the little bowl, salted water, the stones beneath, and as she reaches to grab them, she stops for a moment and then uses one of her fingernails to just prick her index finger and touch the tip of the water. And it doesn't spread. It flows like ink down through water and settles into the grooves of not all, but some of the stones. And I'm going to roll as she rolls. 9.
On a hit, you get to ask what is about to happen.
What is about to happen?
In regards to this date or something else?
It's a date?
Or
Dog.
this little trek to the Christmas market with a friendly ballet dancer.
Yes. I think Phoebe is concerned about just before the reason that he came here in the first place, this angel who told him to come here. It's like, what is the purpose of this beyond the Christmas market?
What is about to happen is at the end of your time at the Christmas market, he's going to ask you if you would like a ticket to the Nutcracker. He would love to have you there to watch him perform. You don't get to ask why is he about to do that unless you bump up the roll to a 10.
No, it's okay. I don't need to know yet.
Fantastic.
It looks benign enough. And so she gathers her things and goes back downstairs.
I do believe the Fae walk among us and indeed inspire our greatest works. I like to imagine that Shakespeare performed his midsummer play for Oberon's court, for example. And if they are, well, if there's an opportunity to be inspired by them, I want to take it.
Lovely.
I didn't get your name.
No, you didn't.
Oh, mysterious. Interesting. Yes, good. So, tell me, what was it like to have Ms. Beaumont work her magic on you? He's taken out some paper and ink and quill.
Cecelie has some of the paper she had earlier, and she's tearing tiny pieces off. She's playing it off like it's just a nervous habit, and she's just sprinkling it under the table like snow. Well, it's fascinating. Their wings are very beautiful.
They have wings?
Of course, they're fairies.
Oh, that's very interesting. He's writing some things down.
Very, yes. And they sing little songs and have toadstools around. It's all very... idyllic.
I need a word that rhymes with wings. Several. What would you say? There aren't many words that rhyme with wings, are there? Because
I suppose if you don't have a particularly extensive vocabulary, no.
Well, it's all coalescing in my mind.
Are you a patron of the Blue Feather Society by any chance?
Oh, yes. I'm aware of yes, absolutely. Are you a member of the Blue Feather Society?
I'm asking questions now. Were you familiar with the work of Sir Richard Harlow?
Make the information move with presence.
Okay. Presence. I think my presence is the one that's the highest, actually. Let me check. Yes, that's a 2. Lovely. Oh, I rolled very badly, though. Yikes. So I got a 6.
He says, can I tell you a secret?
Please.
I was actually there. I found Sir Richard before the authorities did. You see, I was already convinced of Miss Beaumont's fey nature, and well, I'd been following him for some time, and I was there when Miss Beaumont did whatever she did, and then left his flat, and I snuck up the trellis, and I saw him. It's a funny thing. I thought perhaps that he was moving around underneath all of that strange cocoon of silk-like thread that he was wrapped in. I thought I saw him moving, and I went to help him. I went to cut open the threads. Well, it all just sort of, it's a bit of a blank at that point. Yes, it's very blank. I came to, and ever since that night, I've had a certain flutter in my stomach. Is it the excitement of being so close to the Fae? Perhaps. But that fluttering has never stopped, you see. I can still feel that fluttering in my stomach. And being very mindful of our lines or veils here, you will see from your vantage point, Miss Quinn, that poor Orrin Blackwood is a nest for something. Your eyes are probably widening in character in that way too, as we see things crawling out of his mouth. As we see him holding up his arm, and you can see the flesh bubbling with movement of things underneath the epidermis. I'm so dedicated to my work, you see. I want to do everything I can to spread the word, to create a bridge with them. He grabs you by the hand, by the wrist. I can do it. You can help me. We can help each other, you see. This is the night move. What are you afraid is going to happen right now?
I know there's some kind of binding on me, and I know that this man has been recruited by the Fae. I am afraid that he is going to take me somewhere that I won't be able to leave.
Oh, I think it's much worse than that. You're going to discover that whatever keeps you alive, this masterwork, the artist who made that masterwork, who made the opera, made a contract with the Fae, and that is getting called in now. You're going to be rolling with sensitivity.
Okay. Not my strongest suit.
You're definitely going to be rolling with sensitivity. You're definitely going to be rolling at disadvantage.
Okay, so I roll 3 and take the 2 lower, yes?
Indeed.
We'll just ignore that lovely 6. 6, 7. So I got 8.
Oh, not the worst thing in the world.
Okay.
You're only going to survive this moment if you kill him right now.
In the house, it'll make such a mess. Can I use a mask to bump up?
To 10, sure, yeah. Absolutely.
Okay. I'm gonna mark my second mask of the past. And I think I'm going to say, for God's sake, Merricat! I know you're here by now, do something!
That's very good. We'll come back to this in a moment. I think I want to check in briefly with Dr. Mortimer and Haskell. Haskell, I would like to suggest, if it's okay, that you see at a distance the snowball fight that Dr. Mortimer is in with these kids. How does it make you feel?
There is something about the scene that tickles him, but when he sees that familiar flush of embarrassment on the doctor's face, he starts marching over.
You don't get far. Because you are jumped by a group of men and women who they jump out from behind a hedge and they immediately begin trying to kick you and drag you to where no one will see them. I need you to roll the day move right now. What are you afraid is going to happen?
I'm afraid that if this goes wrong, I'll be out of my depth.
Interesting. I like the phrasing. I think I can play with that. This is going to be with vitality.
8.
Yeah, you're going to get beat up, but you'll survive the attack. You will learn in the middle of the fight, because they're kind of talking to each other, that this is a group of young people who call themselves the Black Laces. Indeed, they all have names like Shins, Spike, Welly, Heels. And they're just beating the crap out of you, or they're trying to. But you eventually get away. I'll let you describe what it looks like.
I think Haskell knows the shapes into which he must contort himself to defend his vital organs, and manages to pick his way back out towards whatever passes for a crowd near the end of the street, and kind of blends in, looking back to see whether or not the doctor's in any danger, but happy that she isn't, I assume. Then I think he's more than happy to show them a clean set of heels.
Why do you think you got jumped? And who do you think these people are?
Oh, it could be any number of reasons. Maybe Haskell's got time fast. The name isn't familiar, but I've put so many people's nose out of joint in my time that this could be any deck coming calling.
Indeed. Just take a bruised up condition. Dr. Mortimer, what a nice afternoon you've spent getting in touch with your youthful side.
It's been a while.
It has indeed.
I'm assuming she didn't see anything. She's not even seen that Haskell spotted her.
No,
Or,
you have
no,
no idea.
not at all.
No.
Completely oblivious.
Yeah.
As she's dusting the snow off of herself, I'd like to think maybe she does hate the cold. She's said this before, and she's feeling it in her fingers. And she's considering the clues that they have for this so far. She's looking specifically at this fountain and around. Where would he have managed to drag someone, convince someone to go before they were frozen? Where would he have then frozen them? She's trying to figure out where the sculptor carves his works.
Make the information move with reason.
Okay. Eight.
I owe you a clue, and that will be the end of your day phase once I've given you that clue. Miss Quinn, all the horrible things I described don't quite happen like that. Maybe you just imagine it, but I would like to know how your time with Orrin Blackwood ends. And I think I owe you a clue as well, if I'm not mistaken. Or no, because
I
you
got 6.
you got a 6 originally, yeah, and you actually bumped up the next roll. That's right.
Yeah, that's right.
So what happens at the end with Orrin Blackwood?
I think that it becomes increasingly clear that he is a dead end and has wasted my time, and I was very foolish to allow him into this house. And so I simply stand, having fed him some more gibberish from children's books, and say, "It is time for you to get out of this house. Do not bother me again."
And he's getting ready to leave. And he says, "My offer still stands if you ever want me to immortalize you in verse."
Will it be rhyming verse, because you haven't demonstrated yourself to be terrifically talented in that department?
He kind of smiles and says, "I can make sure your name will be spoken for all time."
You don't know my name. If you would like to, and you clearly have a taste for theatre, perhaps see if you can catch a showing of The Distant Celestial.
And he writes that down and leaves. Ms. Jean-Baptiste, how was your outing with Sasha?
I think it's going fairly well. She's a bit uncomfortable by herself in some circumstances, specifically when it's a date that she's not aware until later on that it is in fact a date. And I think once they get to the Christmas market, she takes a moment, looks around at the people milling about, doing terribly mundane things, but happily. I think she turns to Sasha. That must have been very frightening for you up there.
He says, yes. I haven't been able to stop thinking about it. Except for this afternoon. I haven't thought about it once.
I apologize then for perhaps making you think of worse things.
No, it's all right. If you don't mind me saying so, Ms. Jean-Baptiste, you seem a little lighter as well. And indeed, Ms. Jean-Baptiste, I will tell you that this entire time you've been at the Christmas market, you haven't felt the presence of the entities at all.
That's very concerning. the most, her brow furrows as she realizes in that moment. Oh, yes, perhaps that is true. I suppose I allowed myself to get a bit wrapped up in your company, Sasha.
Fantastic. That feels like a good cut. He does invite you to come watch his performance of the Nutcracker tonight. He hopes you'll be there. I think I'd like to go ahead and we're going to take a break. We'll take a slightly longer break, around 10, 15 minutes, say, to give you all time to take a look at the clues that we have for the Nutcracker. I'm going to review what we have right now just for sake of people watching the video. So we do have this fourth body that was found in a confessional booth. We know that at least one of the victims was not dead before they were frozen. There was white animal fur on one of the victims' arms. One of the dancers had their lips removed. There's this drawing of a fountain with the victims depicted in it. We got this suggestion from the Snow Queen that the dancers might have been complicit in their deaths somehow. We know that despair is the medium in which the sculptor is primarily working. We have this Castrato singing this bit from Verdi, and then we have this article about a death of a ballet dancer seemingly unrelated. We have one clue that has to be yet defined by the breakfast scene. That can be for any of the threats, but but potentially it's for this one. And then I also owe you a clue, Dr. Mortimer. I think we'll see where we get with the clues we've got, and then maybe we'll kind of check in on that clue to see if there's something that Dr. Mortimer will discover that might help bring things home. So with all that said, why don't we take 10 and then we'll come back and work on that question and do our dusk phase.
Yeah, before you dash off, that was me trying to use the Mericat move. So
okay.
Interesting. I was doing all the stuff to communicate with her.
I missed that.
In the hopes that I could have advantage when I roll later in relation to the Fae. Can I?
I kind of like
the
it.
Mericats?
I think that's good. Yeah. Thank you for the reminder. We can follow up on that. I like that very much. Okay. All right. I'll see you in a bit.
Great.
Why don't we start by attempting to answer the question, one of several options here on the questions, with the Nutcracker. Which question are we going to answer? Who has a theory? What do we think?
I have a theory for the where, but Wren, I think, also has a theory as well.
Well, I don't have a theory for the where. I just have a general theory of putting some clues together that I think can apply to multiple questions. So I don't know if that works with how this game works.
I mean, there's just one. You have to pick one. Yeah.
Okay.
And I mean, I suppose you could answer multiple and have options on the resolution.
Well,
that's very not typical, but Good.
Very not typical.
You have a lot of clues, so it wouldn't be impossible.
Is there any way for us to know what the dance of the Nutcracker is?
Oh, the move. It's not something that is going to have time to come up in the
Okay.
time that we have left. Yeah.
Right.
So,
Okay.
yeah.
Right. As I think we were saying off camera, if it was potentially a move that just allowed us to sidestep the mastermind, then we'd be like, yes, fantastic, let's go for it.
What it is essentially is you kind of start to essentially work with the sculptor to further his plans. Essentially, it's kind of the idea.
No.
So,
Game recognized game. I see that.
it's the dark option. Yeah. So the other two, for the amount of time we have left in this campaign, I recommend one of the other two for sure.
Okay, cool.
In which case, I would suggest where does the sculptor carve his work? Because that then gives us the best opportunity to get a 12 and then a mastermind clue as well.
That would give you another mastermind clue, yeah. Because you could throw a lot of clues on this and make that happen. So you have the Mask of Perfection as well to get a bump up. So it would be really hard for you not to get a 12, really, truly.
But we also have 2 potential clues to add to this to make it even better.
Yeah,
so.
Exactly that.
And you don't have to use them all, obviously. You could just as many as you feel comfortable to answer the question and get a decent enough roll. So,
Okay. So, shall we stick with where does the sculptor carve his works then?
Let's go for it. Okay. So my theory was the 4th body was found in a confessional booth. All of the bodies have been found encased in ice. How would it have gotten into the booth? I think they were frozen in water before they were dead. They were chilled and then moved. That would encase them. This, I think, was done in a baptismal pool inside one of the churches, potentially. I think the fountains where the victims were sort of the poses that the victims were depicted in were maybe biblical in nature.
Is that the clue you're going to add?
Yeah.
Okay.
But one of them was crucified, right?
No, they've all been found encased in
Hermes
ice,
was
right?
crucified.
Yeah, Hermes was crucified.
Okay, Hermes was crucified.
That's pretty fucking biblical.
Yeah. Outside St. Paul's Church as well. That's they do have a baptismal pool. I don't know why I know that. The white animal fur on the arms. I had a thought for that, but I've completely lost it. I didn't write it down. That's annoying. Let me come back to it.
If it was like lamb's fur, like sheep?
Like a wool.
Like a wool.
Like something from a nativity scene.
A nativity scene.
Yes.
Right. Okay. Fantastic.
Good. Okay.
Cool. The dancers being complicit.
Did they think they were receiving some kind of baptism?
Blessing.
Yeah.
I think maybe the ballet and the church are in league somehow, whereby blessing the lead dancer before opening night, before curtain call, one dancer, maybe someone from the back line has to go and be blessed, and that's where the sculptor picks them. And sort of in cahoots, as it were. First this, then dark. London, despair is his work. The church has much wider roots than the ballet itself. So if the ballet and the church are working together, then what's the next? Is it going to be the opera house? Is it going to be what is? I think it's moving more artists towards this sort of sacrificial nature, this ritual.
Yeah.
And then the article about a death of a ballet dancer seemingly unrelated. I think it was a ballet dancer found dead in one of the baptismal pools that maybe didn't freeze and thawed out and was just covered as they drowned in a church. How sad.
Yeah.
Okay. That I think is about as far as I can go with it. If anyone else has got anything.
So just to recap, there's this idea that there's maybe a superstition of some sort in the company where the dancers have to like go receive a blessing before a big performance, and the sculptor is maybe a priest, and
Yes.
the sculptor is maybe a priest. I would also like to note that might explain why he had such easy access to Rabbi Solomon's temple.
Of course. Yes. A
Maybe-
religious figure at the head of it all.
Maybe they were like,
Ooh.
you know, like colleagues in some sense, right? How interesting. And so if we think the sculptor is maybe a priest, he has an ice water baptismal font. Is that the idea here?
Yeah, that was the thinking.
So then it sounds to me like it would have to be an old church, since the where is what we're focusing on. An
Yes.
old church where the baptismal font could be, maybe it's even like at this point, like the church is like whatever's left of it is like underground, and the baptismal font is underground near freezing water, or the water is very near frozen. That's pretty interesting. Or it's so cold that it's freezing. How interesting. It's very intriguing. Let's kind of run through the clues. I think based off of what we have so far here, the despair thing is interesting because I think maybe there's this idea that part of the despair is the perversion of the ritual, right? And the perversion of like sort of Christian belief, I guess. I guess that can maybe account for that a little bit. But
I had a thought on that, which is that if he is this priest who's kind of usurping his position, perhaps he knows that despair often drives people into the arms of the church. So he wishes to spread despair in order to bring more victims towards him.
oh, that's intriguing.
That he could baptize to join the church in his baptismal
Yeah.
font.
That's very twisted. I like it.
Could the article about the death of the ballet dancer, seemingly unrelated, if we haven't worked that in yet, could that simply just have been another dancer who figured it out and wasn't in line for the blessing because they were in, the chorus or whatever, and were just straight murdered to cover it up?
Oh, that's kind of interesting. Yeah, I think that's
They weren't
pretty good.
deemed unique enough to be chosen for one of these masterworks.
How interesting. How interesting. This is pretty. This is like a really dark and bizarre theory. Okay, so let's go through it. Okay, so all of the clues line up pretty well for this for Jess's basic theory here, which is like that this is possibly a priest, someone who is doing quote unquote blessings in frozen baptismal or freezing baptismal water, and using that to create his works. Oh, it's very intriguing. What about the dancer's lips being removed? Is that relevant, or is that do we just explain that away as?
Who was that? Was that one of the three that were found initially?
Yes,
It was. I think. From the one that, because I did the one that I saw the autopsy of. That was it.
Gomez.
They had the lips removed. Yes.
I don't know if it ties in. The only thing I can think of is it's something to do with like purity, like the lips and like the things which are being removed are around like sinful acts. If he's
that's pretty good, because
he's
like
gone a bit sideways in his thinking.
Oh, that's really interesting, because like we do know that many of the victims had their genitalia removed.
Mhm.
Maybe that dancer did something with his mouth that was sinful. Maybe Sasha can confirm that for Ms. Jean-Baptiste. Maybe there's even a detail in Sasha's kidnapping, right? Like maybe he was going to be made an example of in a certain way too. I wonder.
Well, he was going to be burned.
Yeah. Oh, let's get real dark. He's Muslim.
Ah,
Oh.
so again, that's his sin. Oh God.
Yeah, so we're going back. We're going back to the Torquemada here. You know, I mean, it's that level of like dark, right?
Jesus.
Yeah, well,
But it
that certainly works. Yeah,
It works.
That fits.
Yeah, it works. Yeah. Wow.
Hells.
Boy, this guy.
This Nutcracker is a real piece of work now.
I don't actually think I like this guy very
I
much.
don't care for
No.
this guy at all.
No, he is a wrong un.
Not for nothing. I'm here for the let's destroy him option.
Yeah.
Instead of capturing. Cool.
Mhm.
Great.
Yeah.
Indeed. Well, so I mean, does anyone want to look up the Rigoletto thing and see if there's a connection there?
We actually did off camera.
Okay.
Look it up. I'm not sure I can quite think of how to work it in.
Yeah.
I mean, so in Rigoletto, I did look up several synopses. In Rigoletto, the point at which this is happening is that Rigoletto's daughter has been kidnapped by courtiers and essentially given to a duke who is known to like do very not do very but just like engage in like sexual acts with young girls and like wreck their purity and things like that. So he's like crying out to these courtiers like vile fiends, like give my child back. So it probably
was that sang at the Christmas tree with the burning?
Yes.
Yeah, yes. It was kind of a weird, like, kind of ephemeral clue. Like, we just heard it at the end.
Could that have been someone either in league with the sculptor or someone who was been told to by the sculptor, because it was part of this performance of immolating this dancer at the top of the tree, and that bit of music was picked specifically because it was about someone who had in much the same way that the character in the song has been committing acts with other people, like they're making an example of the star at the top of the tree essentially, and that bit of music is either ironic or really dark.
Yeah, no, I think it works. I think it works really well, actually. So let's recap. we have definitely landed on something here. The sculptor is a priest who has a history with the dance company. We don't really know I don't think we necessarily know we don't have enough clues to say what the company's connection is to it all, but this priest at least has some connection to the company. Maybe we think it's not a clue, but it's really interesting context that this person had access to Rabbi Solomon's space, indicating that they knew each other or there was familiarity there. And so that might just further emphasize that he's a priest. Perhaps they have some kind of like, they're part of some kind of committee or something, or they're just friends, who knows, right? Also, she was a big fan of the ballet. That's another little detail that we should not go unremarked upon, right? She was also a very big fan of the ballet. So I think there's probably a connection there between Rabbi Solomon and the sculptor, clearly. And so we think he's a priest. We think he has some kind of connection to the ballet, perhaps through Rabbi Solomon, but some sort of historical connection. There's this long-standing tradition in the company where dancers have to go get blessed before a big performance, and he uses that opportunity to lure them into his deadly baptismal font, freezing them into place. He is choosing people who are committing sinful acts, and he actually he actually like defiles their bodies in accordance with those sinful acts related to whatever it was, and then he takes their sin and transforms it into art, essentially, right? It's very grim. It's very, very grim. And the despair part of it, I almost wonder if it's not even so much that like he's trying to cause despair as much as he is trying to express that London is a place that needs to be purged, that is sin, right?
I mean, he's not wrong.
It's very dark. It's very dark. It's very dark. It all works. Even the animal fur thing is interesting because it implies that wherever his church is, there must be like a nativity or something like that, or maybe he's involved in it, or we think.
Or conversely, do you remember when we talked about the punishments that they were handed out at the ballet? I think Wren said something about anyone who had transgressed in a rehearsal had to be stitched into an animal suit. Maybe Hermes had been the last person to have that punishment.
Oh, that's good. Oh, that's pretty good. Yeah.
And it was like an Arctic fox costume.
This is dark. This is so dark. I mean, the ballet company is clearly not off the hook here either, right? Like, this is all pretty dark. Okay, but brass tacks, we have to say generally where this church is. Obviously, we don't have to go and like find an underground abandoned church on a map somewhere, but we just have to say generally that we think that there is a sort of like church that is an abandoned church that is that has underground passages or access to underground passages or something like that.
We always end up in churches.
Always end up in churches.
What is our deal?
It's a great lair for such creatures, right?
What if
It would
it's...
have to be.
Oh, go on.
Go ahead, Michelle. No, go ahead.
Oh, I was going to suggest, what if it's like a very, very old church that actually is kind of on the site or just behind the opera house where the ballet performs?
Yeah.
And it's right there, and that could even be the connection. Is just because their performance space was built on the grounds that once belonged to this church, they will go and have the blessing there in order to have a good performance.
Desecrating the once pure grounds of the church with their sinful acts coming from the ballet company. Yeah, that would work.
I think that's amazing, but I've got an idea that's even more cuckoo bananas if anyone wants to hear it.
Do it. I'd love to hear your idea.
Do you remember that Roman bathhouse we ended up in?
Yeah.
below, like, since Gastrel was seemingly excavating that.
Any water down there would be very cold, I would think.
Yeah. And now he's not. I wonder if someone else has moved in and used it for their own purposes.
Hell yeah.
Yep.
It's a good connection. It's a good callback.
I like it.
Yeah. I'm into it. Maybe Gastrel and him were colleagues as well, right? Who knows?
This is real nose to tail detective work. We're using every last piece.
A little bit. But I do think if we were role playing the scene, you could imagine Haskell being like, "Oh, I know where there's such a place," and then you have to kind of admit that you know to the others what you did to Gastrel, but maybe that's not such a huge secret. Fantastic. Well, this is going to be a terrific die roll. I think it's going to be probably the best answer question die roll I've ever seen in my many times playing this game. So let's see how we do with a +6. Who would like to roll it?
Jess, please.
This was Jess's head, so.
Well, I've been rolling like trash, so let's just
now this is the moment.
This is the
We
moment
have to save the good rolls.
This is the time.
This is the time.
Is that good or bad?
It's boxcars. It's 2 6s. That's mad. That's
there we go.
Mad. No.
So we got an 18. Well, this is really interesting because it also means that underground Roman temple is important to Mrs. Brathwaite's plans as well. For your 9th mastermind clue.
Oh, God.
Let's note that.
Great.
As we should have just put it in the British Museum or something. Like, God.
I think we'll probably answer the mastermind question after the night phase is over. We'll save a little time for that at the end. Let's just transition straight away to the rest to whatever we need to do next.
If I may, and you can cut this if no. If we have 2 outstanding clues left, that is enough to have a go at solving the spider seamstress as well.
If there are clues that are vulnerable move clues that
We
need
have
to be...
we have 2 undefined clues that we didn't use, right?
That's
just
true.
one?
That's a good... I mean, you can try to answer
Yeah,
the
that's
first
true.
question
No.
now, but yeah. I think we definitely have one from Haskell, I believe, if I'm not
Yeah.
mistaken. And I'm not sure about the one from the breakfast scene. Did we get that one?
Did we use it?
I think we used it.
Because we still had one
think-
hanging out. We had one left over from before, right?
We had one from Dr. Mortimer, which we used, and then we had we have not gotten Haskell's.
Oh, okay. So it's
Yeah.
just one left. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah, we might be better to leave it, I think.
Wait.
You could use it though, because you only need to have a number of clues equal to half the complexity. So with 3 clues, you could answer either the first or second question.
We could give it a go. The first question, because the complexity is 4, and if we get it, then we are going to be hanging out with the seamstress tonight, hopefully.
That's true.
And
What
you are
could
right.
possibly go wrong?
I've never made a bad decision in this game, so
It is 2 clues. We have 2 clues hanging over.
we do have. to
I think that clue then is quite simply there is an item or a garment of some sort that is gifted to her victim that begins a bonding ritual that you might also be wearing, Miss Quinn. There's something that's part of an outfit, and it's got to be like a pocket square or something that's not the main thing, but that's the kind of the Horcrux that holds it together, if you know what I mean.
Maybe it's an embroidered something like a symbol.
Like her name
And then-
in whatever Fey language is.
Oh, that's pretty good.
Oh, that's beautiful.
How did you discover that, Haskell?
That's a great fucking question.
Love the clue, but how did Haskell stumble upon this?
In a warehouse in East London.
Indeed.
Well, I did
I've got it.
ask you. Oh, go on.
I've got it. So that yard that I dropped the carriage off that was broken down, that person deals in like house clearances and all sorts of stuff. And there is a kind of a dressing mannequin that has a notably unusual garment hanging on it, and that symbol is there, and I recognized it from what's on Mrs. Quinn's dress.
Very good. Very good.
That's a crowbar job for you there.
And do we have a second one from breakfast? Is that right, Wren?
Yes, you do. Because I used the clue to do the article. Jess had a clue separate, and we did not use Haskell's clue or the breakfast clue. So there are 2 clues.
So
Right,
what might we have stumbled
coming out of
upon
my
at
brain.
breakfast then?
If I may posit, I think it might have been when Dr. Mortimer accused Miss Quinn of vanity and was shouting about vanity and mirrors, and that it's to do with this particular fae appeals to vanity, and that's something that Miss Quinn realized. Like, everybody in that room was desperate to be picked, to be chosen, to be the most special. And then there's something in the fae magic which preys on those who are vain and look to be elevated. That's my suggestion.
I like that very much. I think that's pretty good. And yeah, that's great. I mean, do we want to take a crack at this question then?
Let's do it, I reckon.
All right.
All right, we have the Book of Fairy Tales with annotations in the margins. The right hands of the sisters are bound in silver thread, as well as also the people who were there at that event. We have the clue that we just heard. And what was the other one?
The embroidered sigil.
Oh, the sigil. Yes, that's right. And you can answer either how is the creature ensnaring her victims, or what is the creature's true name. You actually do, technically speaking, have enough clues to try what does the creature truly want if you wanted to. It'd be a really hard roll, but you could do it.
With a -4.
Yeah. But you are at the minimum clue threshold on that one.
I trust in Cecelie Quinn's insane roll streak. I think this could work.
I don't know if this is the time.
Would be the moment. This would be
This would be when it all goes wrong for me, I think.
I think it makes sense to go for the how is the creature ensnaring her victims, with the overall context that she's going to try and ensnare Miss Quinn is the kind of the framing of this.
Yeah, I think that's great.
Yeah.
And the right hands of the sisters bound in silver thread, in addition to everyone else who was at that fitting. Did you refuse to have your hand bound, Miss Quinn, or did it not get to you, or was that something that they tried? Or
I think it was to do with like I had the garment, so I had the silver threads all around
okay,
my body rather than just my hand.
But the silver thread is part of the binding, essentially, is what we think.
Yeah. As is the symbol.
Mm-hmm.
And then it's just the book of fairy tales, I guess, with the annotations.
Yeah, the annotations maybe might give us some indication of like maybe there's like a fairy tale character that escaped by cutting the silver threads or something like that, or I don't know. Or maybe
I wonder if theory person. Matt, you have something.
My theory is that like the annotations in all of the fairy tales, they're all kind of very traditional ones about maybe like otherworldly creatures coming to our world, but the annotations correct them to be actual. The real fairy tale is a genuine thing that happened in Fae history, and they're all tales of failed bonding rituals. And these are corrections or binding rituals. These are corrections to say, actually, this is not how the Three Little Pigs went down. You know what I mean?
Maybe, yeah. My thing kind of works with that, actually, which was, if the question is how is she ensnaring her victims, it's to do with the thread, but I wonder if it's there's a promise that you will be taken to the Feylands if you allow this to happen, but not stolen away like Merricat, like you will be welcomed as like a superior, like a king or queen in the Feylands. And it's about the silver thread, the sigil. It's appealing to the vanity by offering this, and maybe that those annotations that Merricat made in the fairy tales is about people aren't snatched away. They choose to take these bonding rituals so that they can go away to the Feylands. Maybe it's not even true. Maybe she knows because she's been there. It's not even a true promise, but that is how she tricks them.
Oh, interesting. Okay, yeah, I think that's great. So that accounts for, is that all 4 clues? So we have the sigil, is certainly accounted for, the silver thread, the fairy tales, and
the obsession with the mirrors and vanity.
Oh, appealing to vanity. Yeah. Okay. Well, there we go. Straightforward. Who wants to roll that?
Oh God, it's got to be you, Michelle.
It's got to be
Michelle.
Okay. Do I? Can I apply the advantage that Merricat gives to my next roll to this, or does that one?
You can use it in the confrontation with
the
Fae, but answer a question cannot ever have an advantage like that.
That is
except for that one aura remove, incidentally. But
yeah. 4, 5, 6, 7. I rolled.
So you succeed. You can certainly bump that up if you wanted to use the Mask of Glamour. Each hunter narrates a flashback to a time when they peered through the veil and glimpsed another world beyond this one.
What do we think, team? Do we want to mark that one?
Mortimer absolutely does not. Jess absolutely does, to see what Mortimer fucking breaks.
Sold.
Let's bump it up to a 10, so that it will be a pretty... The resolution of allowing a hunter to be lured by the seamstress and as bait, then capturing or destroying her will be fairly straightforward to accomplish, or it won't be extra difficult at least. And let's take stock of sort of where things are at this point in time. I'm also trying to be mindful of our time that we have in the session. Okay, so we have answered questions. We love that. What is everyone interested in doing for this night phase then?
Nutcracker. I'm heading towards that church. That is what Mortimer is absolutely doing.
I'm going to a ballet, apparently, so.
Fantastic.
I'm slaving over a hot stove.
Mm-hmm. I'm inviting Ms. Beaumont into the house.
Fantastic. I love that. So I'm trying to figure out like our order of operations here, how I want to do this, because we also, because of just our schedule, we have to do the mastermind question today. And so I want to make sure we have time for that as well. Our options are, we can do this a couple different ways. We can spend the rest of the session resolving Mask of the Past, Mask of Glamour, kind of telling these stories of the characters, and then doing the mastermind question. And then at the beginning of the next session, we'll do our night phase, resolve these two threats, and then I will transition us into the confrontation with Theodora. That's one option. The other option is we just go really long today and do the night phase and then also do the mastermind question. I think I prefer the former, if I'm being honest. I mean, it will give us some more time to think about these confrontations with these two threats, which I would not mind having a little extra time to think about it. So I think that may be the move here. So what I think we'll do now is let's take a 10-minute break. When we come back from that break, we will do the Mask of Glamour and any personal masks that need to be narrated. We will also answer the mastermind question. I do want to go ahead and review the mastermind question clues. Or the mastermind clues, since we have not seen some of these in a long time. We have to answer the question, how is Mrs. Brathwaite trying to destroy the crown? First clue. Her first appearance in our story was expressing a keen interest in the work of Dr. Mortimer and Ms. Jean-Baptiste. She then sent a gift to Dr. Mortimer, a history of the kings of England. Mrs. Brathwaite was once the pirate queen of the Caribbean, was captured and employed by a young Princess Victoria, and her fleet was used to support Britain and to establish an export network. Import-export network. Details of a business proposition involving Jenny Johnston. That's an interesting clue I'd forgotten about. That's interesting. Theodora had an interest in the events in Kilburn Abbey. She was there in the spot where that body was excavated from. Ms. Quinn was integral to Theodora's alternate dimension version, who was referred to by Franklin Jean-Baptiste as the King in Blue. Mrs. Brathwaite hosted a delegation of Fae at her estate because she believes in Camelot. That feels really important to that second clue. And then we think that this Roman bathhouse might have some connection to her plans as well. It's figured prominently in several events over the entire course of the campaign. So why don't we start with the mastermind question, and then we'll do our various narrations. I heard right before we left that, Wren, you have some thoughts on how this is going to go.
Oh no, you heard that.
What is Mrs. Brathwaite up to? Or if anyone has thoughts on what Mrs. Brathwaite's plan is to destroy the crown, I would love to hear it.
Oh God. Okay. So it is clear that she potentially wants to regain the power and prowess that she had when she was pirate queen. She was in charge of a bunch of ships. She commanded the seas, and then that was kind of the wind was taken out of her sails by the queen. I started to say it and I just had to follow through. By the young princess. And so I think a lot of these things, the history of the kings of England might tie in a bit with her belief in Camelot and trying to go back lineage wise in terms of like who ruled this country. Not so much because she's trying to defy and like disgrace the queen, but I think she's more trying to see who she can get on her side, because I think was trying to see through Kilburn Abbey, and then I know this isn't a clue, but we have the servant of the mastermind who is the ghost.
That feels important.
Is trying to access another world in order to now follow me here. Raise an army of undead and manipulate a fallen king and bring them back in order to take over the crown.
Does she want to? I mean, is she trying to resurrect the mythical King Arthur?
Potentially, and his knights,
and marry him or something?
I don't know about marry. Yeah. I think she trapped the ghost in the phylactery as like part of a test to see how strong it is. Mm-hmm. I think she wants to get the knights on side by potentially like holding their king and saying, you do this for me.
Oh.
And then you can...
This is fascinating. So she wants to find the mythical Camelot wherever it's at, and I guess if she had hoped the Fae would help her with that, whatever realm beyond the veil between life and death it exists on, she wants to find it. She wants to capture Uther or Arthur or some ancient king, and then wants to use that as blackmail to create like essentially an elite like force that can be used against the crown.
Yeah. And that's why she's interested in both me and the doctor, because I think she's
trying to bring things back to life.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Magic.
And she's aware of my spiritual connection.
Yep.
So
wow, interesting.
Oh yeah, that's my Sherlock. Someone else.
I think I can maybe jump in with the Ms. Quinn being integral to the King in Blue's plans. So in this realm, with it being the Queen in Blue, bringing back King Arthur, Ms. Quinn being infinite, having existed for an infinite period of time. The Arthurian legend doesn't focus on Arthur, it focuses so much on Merlin. I think Theodora maybe thinks that Ms. Quinn is this reality's version of Merlin. And that she's infinite and that power, that magic is why and how Ms. Brathwaite hosted a delegation of Fae. I think that magic is all connected, but I think it all absolutely stems around having Ms. Quinn at the center of the court.
That's
as
intriguing.
Merlin.
That's really intriguing. I mean, you can imagine Ms. Quinn, based off what Mrs. Brathwaite is trying to accomplish, you can imagine, and it seems like that was the case for the King in Blue, Ms. Quinn functions as almost like Ms. Quinn is the tree that exists in all places, right? Like Ms. Quinn is the way into the various dimensions and places. That's intriguing. I do think it's interesting also that other version of Mrs. Brathwaite made himself a king, right? Like, that is interesting to me, right?
Yeah, I'm not sure if this quite fits in, but what I was cooking up in my little brain cauldron was that she wanted to bring down the crown so that she could take her place as an eternal queen.
Right. That's what I think too. Yeah.
And so, because we know that the version where there's a king in blue, they failed to stop Theodora's alternative and he became a king. We know she was once royalty amongst pirates. Maybe now she's looking to become royalty on a larger stage. And perhaps she wants to be a queen infinite so she can never have her power taken from her again.
Oh, it's really good. Any thoughts, Matt?
Oh, do I have thoughts? So ignore everything, Wren. No, I'm just joking. Essentially,
I mean, go ahead.
Wren's plan was pretty much identical to mine, but with the following little bits of spice that I might Salt Bay on top. So the a big part of this has to do with the context of the ley line map that we had and we got from the map room.
Okay.
Now, if you recall correctly, it was originally described as a map that had all lines leading to London.
Right.
And said, don't follow the ley lines. And then I cleaned it or restored it and found them all pointing to Hargrave House, saying, do follow the ley lines. I think whatever Miss Brathwaite is up to try and bridge the gap between these worlds and bring back these the old rulers of the British Isles, which includes the Roman bathhouse and Boudica, by the way, that the location that she thinks, because she's got a copy of this ley line map, she thinks it's Brathwaite Manor. We know it's actually Hargrave House, and the reason that we have to stop her is because she's going to open a door to something much worse if she does it at Brathwaite House. And the other thing that's not been talked about is the business proposition with Jenny Johnston, which is actually a business proposition. She is trying to find and use the man with the sun mask to unlock his power to potentially bridge between worlds, and I've got his business card.
Right. I don't think it's an accident that Mrs. Brathwaite has always been around whenever there's like people who are of other worlds or who are trying to master life and death. You can even see it a little bit in Sally No Face, even though there wasn't like a super direct connection there with Mrs. Brathwaite. You can, a little bit actually. That's not true. Mrs. Brathwaite knew where she lived, and I don't think it was a mistake that Sally No Face ended up nearby 18 St. James's Street. You could even see it a little bit there because Sally was trying to, Sally was also in her way trying to create new life or preserve life, right? It's really interesting. Yeah.
I think that the detail about her being the pirate queen of the Caribbean, and there's someone who would be from the Caribbean, like around this time, she probably had quite enough of the British Empire and their bullshit, and right. She's trying to teach them a fucking lesson about how to rule the world by using their predecessors to fight them.
Yeah, it's no secret that I view Mrs. Brathwaite as this sort of like low-key anti-colonialist anti-hero of the between. Of course, she's trying to, in this instance, she's trying to make herself into a queen. So
it's a very you had us in the first half kind of vibe there.
Exactly right. Yeah. No, it's good. Let's look at these clues again. I'm really loving this theory. Yeah, certainly the encounter with Mortimer and Miss Jean-Baptiste and the history of the Kings of England is a big clue, right? Mrs. Brathwaite, the idea of her being a pirate queen. The Jenny Johnston thing is really interesting. I want to come back to that in a moment. What was the interest in Kilburn Abbey and the demon?
I just think it's on the ley line map.
Oh, okay, good.
Any point of power.
The ley line map is relevant here. Oh, okay,
it ties all the locations together.
That might even be why like that might even be the Jenny Johnston connection, right? Maybe the Man in the Sun mask hangs out there, not
because it's
just
also on
yeah.
one of the ley lines.
Yeah, not just because he's an opium fiend, but because he also it's a place of power. That's really interesting. Wow. Okay. A keen interest in the preservation of youth and vitality. Maybe to restore youth and vitality, to bring back the Knights of the Round Table. What do we think that is all about?
This was kind of where I was putting in like the idea that she wants to be a queen who is eternal.
Eternal, yeah.
Is the kind of similar to Sally No Face. She's trying to find the secret to last forever. And maybe that's really also to do with her trying to gather the power of creatures of other worlds. Is all to do with that as well, because we at least believe as humans that the Fae live much longer than us.
Oh, I wonder if that's why the ghost of St. James's Street specifically, because that's the ghost of a young woman, rather than like an old person that's, you know, shuffling around the halls, haunting and grumbling. This was someone who was, you know, in the vitality of youth and kind of preserved in amber, as it were, but preserved in sapphire now, I guess.
Perfect. I love it. So good. We've talked about Miss Quinn's potentially being this sort of like interdimensional fulcrum. The Fae that we've discussed, that the whole Camelot thing. It could be that the Roman bathhouse is also one of those hotspots, right? So that would make a lot of sense to me. It might be why the Romans ended up there and put their temple there, right? What a theory. So to recap, she intends to make contact with the mythical Camelot, and to essentially bring the Knights of the Round Table under her thrall and use them as a way to take over the world, essentially. So
I suppose if you put it like that, it seems ridiculous.
I mean, if her goal is to like manipulate them, like maybe she can, because she had this was information that we knew that she had like something with the Queen at one point. She could quite easily get someone to plant something and be like, look, the Queen stole your king. She is
I'm sure she's probably got plans with them as far as that goes. I love it. I think this is amazing. I'm dying to see if this is correct. Who wants to roll +1?
Wren.
Me? Oh no.
It's your theory.
You started this bullshit.
Oh, I roll so
Come on, Sherlock.
Yep, you Sherlock this so hard. Show us that Mind Palace in action, baby. Let's do this.
Let's
You only
go.
need a 7.
So I only need a 7. Okay, I only need a 7. That is a 9.
Got it. Fantastic. You are correct. Well,
Woo!
I now know what I have to do to prepare for the final confrontation of Mrs. Brathwaite. That'll be a lot of fun. Let's wrap up today's session if we can by doing the Mask of Glamour, the Mask of the Past, and any other little narrative tidbits we need to do. Whoever wants to begin, please do.
I can do my Mask of the Past. Narrate a flashback to your young adulthood that shows the first time you met the artist who fell in love with you. So we see an opera house, but today we are not going inside, for the production has already ended. And as the stage door opens, the conductor of tonight's performance strolls out with a young, impossibly beautiful woman with brown skin and black curls, well dressed, has her hand delicately on his arm. And she keeps her face fairly neutral and nods politely as he crows about the success of this performance. And Miss Quinn, weren't you impressed with my excellence, with my dexterity? Surely you agree I am the finest conductor in London, perhaps in the opera world, no? And she smiles tightly, no. And as they head out of the stage door, the conductor stops abruptly. Ms. Quinn jerking. and turning, and she notices him leering at a young viola player who has also just left through the same door. She is plain. Her hair is short in a bob, but not a stylish bob, it's limp. She's dressed all in black, and her ever so slightly olive-toned skin looks pallid and washed out in the dim light of the street. But despite how much she is a contrast to the alluring Miss Cecelie Quinn, this conductor leers at her all the same, for she is a woman. And he calls out to her and says, "I was just taking the lovely Miss Quinn for drinks to celebrate our success. You must come along." And this quiet viola player looks from him to Cecelie. And her eyes linger for a moment on Cecelie. And quietly, she nods. And as is always the case with nights at the bar with this conductor, he drinks and drinks, ordering cocktail after cocktail and ordering always for Cecelie, of course, and for this young viola player, who both quite quickly take to simply cheersing with him and putting their drinks down next to the rest of the untouched drinks, until he is fast asleep, his arms around the back of the booth in which he sits, as though he has his arms around these women, but he has, of course, known Cecelie long enough to know that there is a danger in actually placing his arm around her. And as Cecelie regards him sleeping, she looks once again at this young woman and says, "Well, that was more tedious than usual. I'll be going home." She stands, and the other woman stands too, and tells her in a small voice, the first time she's spoken all night, really, "It's not right for someone like yourself to walk home alone. I'll walk with you." And for the rest of that year, wherever Cecelie went, that young woman walked with her.
The Mask of Glamour says each hunter narrates a flashback to a time when they peered through the veil and glimpsed another world beyond this one. And I think that this for Haskell was just a flash, the briefest of peaks. And it happened earlier today when he was at that Knacker's Yard, the warehouse in East London. And he found himself scanning a room, as he always does, for things of value or things of interest, and his eyes rested upon that mannequin, the dress mannequin with the kind of iridescent sash that across the shoulder that bore the symbol of Miss Hazel Beaumont. And as he finds himself looking at it, he finds himself drawn to it, engrossed to it, and he starts to feel the scene around the mannequin change. It becomes less drab, less dank. It becomes vital, verdant, lush green. The mannequin is replaced by a humanoid shape, but from the way it moves, he can tell that it's not of this world. It shifts and phases. The old nag that was pulling the cart into the warehouse is a beautiful white unicorn, but those aren't real. And then, as quickly as it came, it fades, and Haskell kind of shakes it off and just looks on his winter coat. There is a single pink petal, and there's no tree around. It's just a nag. It's just a wagon. It's just a knacker's yard.
Mortimer is an older woman. And when she was younger, she wasn't a doctor, she was a nurse. And when she was younger, she went to church. When she was younger, she was married. She was a model citizen. Had it all. And when she was younger, she remembers being on her knees in that church. She can smell the frankincense and myrrh from the censer. She can feel the bite of the cold stone tiles and even on her skirts. And she can taste the salt of the tears running down her cheeks as she looks up to the coffin laid out on the altar before us. It is tiny. So small. And she remembers snowball fights with her daughter. She remembers making her breakfast, eggs, dippy soldiers. And she remembers doing everything right. Society told her that if she did everything right, she'd be rewarded. The kingdom of heaven would be merciful. God would be merciful and would grant them an eternal life together in heaven. And as she sobs, and as the tears fall, the church is briefly just light. And she sees into this promised land. Maybe she could be with her daughter, maybe. And as she looks, she peeks behind the curtain. The throne of God is before her, but the throne is empty. There is nothing here. There has never been anything here. No God would give cancer to such a child, such a perfect child. If there was a God, why would such illness exist? And why would it affect such innocence? There is no God, and there has never been a God. And her life has been a lie. Her entire life has been a lie. And that golden moment fades. And she is crying in a church. And she knows what must be done now.
Phoebe detests dreaming. It's hard for her to sleep, and when she does, it's difficult to maintain. At the very first hint of a dream, she tries to wake herself because dreams show her things sometimes she hardly expects and things she doesn't want to see, and the veil is always torn asunder at the sight of her. And she remembers her very first dream. She thinks, anyway, she's not sure if that's true, but she was under water. Not swimming, just floating. And if she looked up, she could see light beyond, but no matter what she tried, she could not get to it. And if she looked down, there was endless depths. And the lands of the dead look different to those, depending on what religion you follow. Sometimes it is a desert, and sometimes it is something else. And for her, it is an ocean. And in that ocean, she can hear cries ancient and cries not yet formed, and cries of those who think they are there, but not yet, and will be soon. And they see into this part, and they are fearful. And she has grown used to this dream. But her hands still wake, damp with water, if she cannot escape fast enough.
Contrary to the accusations of one Dr. Mortimer, Cecelie very rarely looks in mirrors. There is one in her quarters, an antique hand mirror that occasionally she will look into if she's choosing to put on makeup or wants to check how a particular new set of jewels works with the outfit she's paired it with. But whenever she looks into a mirror, she sees something which strikes an uncanny fear into the place where her heart allegedly resides. She sees herself. She looks into those impassive eyes. She finds herself locked to them, unable to move, unable to ask, "Who are you? And why don't you look quite like me?" Recently, she found herself here once again. She slammed that hand mirror down too hard, cracking it. And she went about her day. Whenever Cecelie looks into a mirror, she sees her reflection.
Fantastic. Let's go to Stars and Wishes. I will say, this is really more of it's I guess it's a star for me for writing the game, I guess, and a star for all of you. There is so much story there's so much story happening here, right? Like there's just an incredible amount of story that's being told in these 9 sessions, and character story, the story of London, history, our version of history at least. It's just so incredible. And as we kind of transition to the final, confrontation with Mrs. Brathwaite, now teed up nicely with these glimpses into other worlds, knowing what she's up to. I'm just very impressed by all the storytelling we've been doing, and just the real like depth of the storytelling and the themes that we're hitting, and the emotion, but also the sort of like the resonances throughout the sessions, like all the things that are resonating, like that, and are kind of paying off, even from like the very first sessions. So yeah, I just really love all that. So star for that. Individual stars, I really enjoyed the Mask of the Past that you did, Wren, for Miss Jean-Baptiste. That was really quite something. I was like, wow, we all have to follow that. So that was great. Fortunately, everybody did a great job of following it, but it was a real high watermark for early in the session, I thought. All of it was really great. Like, just, yeah, this group always does such a great job with the various flashback mechanics and stuff, and it was just good fun. I found something particularly pleasurable about like how Ms. Quinn and Dr. Mortimer and Ms. Jean-Baptiste, their glimpses into other worlds were these like sort of like big existential questions and considerations, and like literally looking at the throne of God, and Haskell saw a unicorn, so I thought that was great. That's kind of amazing. It was enjoyable. So yeah, but no, just all around really, really good stuff. The theories were great, especially the mastermind theory was really, really good. I really enjoyed where that's going. It's going to change the nature of the final confrontation in some cool ways, I think. And I don't think I have anything else as far as that goes. Just really excited. It's a bummer that we have to wait a couple weeks, but I'm excited to get back to it. So.
I've actually got a star from the last session that I didn't get to finish because of that power cut. That it's just so unusual. You don't get that in any other game. It just says crocodile at the nativity. That was great. Whoever did that, great stuff. There was something in Wren's Mask of the Past. There was just a phrase that caught me, like the enigmatic pull of a stranger. It was just a really beautifully poetic thing, and it just stuck out to me and it just kind of encapsulated that whole scene. The breakfast scene, guys. It was just too good. I really enjoy sometimes the outsider nature of Haskell and a little bit Miss Jean-Baptiste, because we can just kind of watch this Joan Crawford, Bette Davis business that's happening across the table at breakfast. I'm very much enjoying that. I really enjoyed the handsome cab scene with Jess, because playing the Factotum is really hard, because if you're playing a butler like they're supposed to be a butler, you can't emote. So, like, actually having a moment to try and talk some sense into the doctor was I'm very grateful for that. I've just put Phoebe interacting with anyone normal and then exclamation marks when you met the dancer. The way that you talk to anyone who's like a normal person is just really funny to me. I've got another thing, but I'll save that for later on in the campaign. But there was the Masters of Glamour I thought were already great, and Jess, it was definitely intentional, I would have thought, but a callback to a very early episode where you said you saw behind the curtain and the throne of God was empty. Yeah, it was like episode 2 or something.
It was Gastrell. I was trying to perk him up, and so I was like, I remembered that. Was like, we're going to tie that one in.
Yeah, and the mastermind solve. That was a real exquisite corpse of like someone set the ball rolling. Yes, and oh, here we are. King Arthur's coming back, I guess. Let's deal with that. But yeah, I really loved that whole thing. Thanks, guys.
I also want to start before I forget. I really enjoyed, even though I didn't pick up on it as right away, I did enjoy Michelle. I enjoyed the way you like triggered the Maricat move in the middle of that scene with Orrin Blackwood. That was great.
I'll jump on in. I think it's hard to narrow down stars for this session because there's been so many for me personally. I think like starting with the Mask of the Past from Phoebe, the Angel's Touch, and that horrible twist. No, we all knew we could see it coming, but you were playing it so innocently, so pure, until it sort of intrinsically wasn't. Beautiful. I really enjoyed that description in particular. I really enjoyed, as a completionist, I really enjoyed Cecelie just being like, we're solving the Spider Silk seamstress. We're solving that today. We're doing that now. Like, with no stone left unturned. If we can, we will. And like we pushed every mechanic of the game to be able to do it. I really enjoyed it. And then Haskell with the eternal amount of tie-ins from the business propositions involving Jenny Johnson and like the mastermind to the Man in the Sun mask to the ley line map to all of these like like all of these details that have been peppered and that we've sort of come back to several times throughout the campaign to bring them into the mastermind web at the end. Phenomenal. It makes the whole game feel completely connected and intentional. Like, I love this game. I love this game so much. I think as somebody who loves a little bit of improv, this is the perfect vehicle to really let everyone flex their muscles and recall and reincorporate to make something feel really whole and really like complete at the end. No matter how we answer the mastermind, I'm so content with how this is all played out. I will also say as well, I really enjoyed our fight at breakfast. Really enjoyed that. It is rare to find someone that you can role play with and feel safe with is when big emotions come up. I felt it was like tennis. At every single point, the energy was just being passed back and forth and back and forth. It was brilliant. Really enjoyed this. Probably my favorite session of the entire season so far. So fucking stars all around. Thank you so much.
I'd also like to throw in for that breakfast scene before we leave it. There's something very Victorian as well about that scene, because we've gone all this time with all of these characters' particular vices and peccadillos and, in some cases, evil behavior and monsters and serial killers, and we have one blow up at breakfast, and it's quick and fast, and we all do our best to forget about it afterwards.
Like most of us have killed people, but it was this that did it.
And there's just one blow up, and we may never get it again. It felt very Victorian.
I'll star you right back, Jess, for that scene, because there is something I rarely do in actual play, but love when I get to know a player well enough to do it, which is just really yelling and just getting into a fight. And I love it because you get to see, but much as we did, the way that the characters feel about themselves from the way they fight. And I love that you and I were able to pick up on each other's energy and bring it to that place while still just having a laugh off camera afterwards, because we both felt safe enough to just go there. It was so much fun.
The insults, the improv insults that were coming back, they were just on point. So good.
I loved it. Cecelie had to smile, because I think if I tried to keep her as straight-faced as usual, something would have cracked in my face trying to not smile. It was great fun. I was going to give a star to the opening Mask of the Past that you did, Wren, as well, because it was beautiful. I think you have just such a wonderful narrative way. It's like prose when you tell your stories, which I just really admire as somebody who has to do dramatic pauses a lot to think of words when I'm trying to narrate. So it was very, very lovely. But I also have to give you a little bonus star for the sheer awkwardness of offering tea or perhaps some hollandaise sauce to the dancer who came to visit. Absolutely loved that. Just really slayed me. Matt, I genuinely am continually impressed by the way that you managed to play the nuance of somebody who is being very, very straight-laced and giving nothing away, while letting us see, as your fellow players and as an audience at times, to your scenes, like that there is something below the surface. Obviously, we've heard your Master of the Past. We know there's more to you, but you always manage to show that in the way you play Haskell, which I just really admire, because it's not easy when you're playing somebody who's very straight-laced to show they have an opinion. But we always know that Haskell has an opinion, even if we don't quite know what it is. And I just think that's excellent. And it really came out a few times in this session in a way that I enjoyed. And Jason, I'm going to give you a star for writing a game which just allows for these big character moments, even when the characters actually haven't interacted nearly as much as you usually would, I think, in an RPG that's gone for this many sessions now. We've still managed to get to know each other enough that when the interactions happen, they really hit. So yeah, just, star on that aspect of the game. I love it. My favorite part of TTRPGs is the character interactions, and I love that this game has fewer of them, but when they happen, they're spicy. I love that.
I'll go then. Michelle, I'm giving you a star for your entire interaction with Oliver. And just I was looking at your face throughout the entire thing, and it barely moved. You were so still when speaking to him and just deadpanning everything you said. And I'm like, I would have broken 6 times over by now. I don't understand how you're doing this. It was so funny and so Cecelie at the same time. And I love things like that, when we can see the characters when they don't have something important to do, just having them interact with just anybody and seeing what they do, which is which is why Phoebe is the way that she is. Jess, your Mask of Perfection and the story about Mortimer's daughter, and just getting to see that side of her, getting to see like where some of this is actually coming from, linked to the snowball fight that she had with the kids in the square, and just like seeing that softer side of her. I was just my heart is so sore. And Matt, Haskell, with with the breakfast scene in the beginning and just like dipping. I know it was partially because you wanted to have your vulnerable scene, but also it's just so Haskell is like, I'm not involved in this right now. This is not for me. And then just seeing Haskell just going with the motions of having to be this butler and do these tasks, and then that moment in the cab with the doctor and just like that little bit of, this is actually more of who I am than I think you understand. I always love that. Jason, you almost made a man explode with spiders, so I'm giving you a star for that. That was brilliant.
That was the trickiest navigation of a veil I've ever done. I was like, okay, how am I doing this?
If I don't say spiders, it's fine, right?
I was like, keep the camera on Ms. Quinn's face. That's what I'm gonna do.
It was so funny. Just watching all of our reactions in real time as this horror was dawning on everybody. It was so fun, and I appreciate that it was a very scary moment, but it was also a bit of levity at the same time, just trying to navigate this. That was great. Yeah, no, I don't want this game to end.
Oh, I have one more wish, or I didn't say a wish, but I have a wish, which is we're getting to do that really fun thing in the Factotum playbook where we get the plot twist on the Factotum, right? Because you unmark those two masks of the past, and you must do those next, right? And so I'm excited to see what the real story is with Haskell. We haven't been getting the real story, right? There's something that we have not gotten, and so I'm excited.
Oh,
yeah.
Is the what's happening? Excuse me.
I think. I have theories. I'm Sherlocking this, but like, there's thoughts.
That was a fantastic session. I'm so excited to go and because basically for people who are curious, or if you're curious, the way the new edition works is that the confrontation with the mastermind is like 75% written, like you have like all the characters and locations and stuff, but I have to go in and kind of like write the questions of like what you're trying to stop her from doing in this moment. And so I'm excited to go and like play with this for the first time to make sure it works properly. I know it does, but just to be confirmed that it works properly. So yeah, that's exciting. It was a great session. Thanks everybody.
Thanks for watching, everyone. That was another great episode, and I really feel like we're hurtling our way towards the end of this campaign now. And yeah, I'm just loving where it's going, loving playing with this table, and loving having Jason torture us on a weekly basis. Huge thank you to Jason and the Gauntlet for hooking us up early with the new edition of the game, and a huge thank you to my patrons for making this possible. Thank you, thank you, thank you a million times. Thank you. We'll be back next time, and until then, it is farewell and safe passage.